What's happening, all you dirty dogs and alley cats? It's your old pal, Brian Q, back with another home video review. Tonight, I watched Waxwork 2, Lost in Time. And for you tapeheads that are curious, my copy comes to us courtesy of Mr. Movies, which probably went out of business sometime in the mid-90s. Having escaped the fiery destruction of the original Waxwork, Mark and Sarah face another grueling ordeal when Sarah is accused of murdering her stepfather. Fleeing through the doors of time in a desperate search for proof of her innocence, the two lovers find themselves caught in the eternally recurring battle between good and evil. An action-packed, clever science fiction thriller, Waxwork 2 Lost in Time will take you on a terrifying journey through the centuries. Well, some of that is accurate. Hannah Montana, this movie is such a mess. I mean, I like it, I guess, kinda, yeah, but it is a mess, and it is far inferior to the original Waxwork. I mean, a House of Horrors wax museum where the displays become reality when you step into them, that is such a good idea for a horror movie, and it allows for lots of different kinds of horror movie moments and genres to all mix into one. So right off the bat, this is something that bugs me about Waxwork 2. The first movie set up some very clear rules and left us with a cliffhanger ending. The rules were, if even one of the wax figures escaped the wax museum at the end, because they all come to, spoiler alert, they all come to life, and if they get out of the wax museum, it is basically the end of the world, and unspeakable evil will wash over the earth. And they are sort of the vessel by which the evil enters our world. If even one gets out, and again, spoiler alert, we get left with a little cliffhanger sting at the end. One of the wax figures got out. A little severed zombie hand crawls out of the wax museum. So one would think, certainly I thought, that if you're going to make a Waxwork 2, I would think the sequel should be about that cliffhanger, about the evil getting out into the world and the fight to stop it. But that's not what this movie's about. It actually does start right at the end of the first movie. This movie begins with the ending scene of the first movie, and right at first I'm like, this is great, this is exactly what I want. But that whole ending idea, the rules that the first movie set up, are completely abandoned, and that zombie hand that we saw escape, which meant evil had gotten into our world, they just throw it in a garbage disposal, and that's the end of that. So right off the bat, the movie rubs me the wrong way, because as I see it, it is ignoring and disrespecting and lazily getting out of the rules of the first movie, and I don't like it when a movie does that. So the Waxwork is gone, which also bugs me because it's a movie that's called Waxwork and there's not a Waxwork in it, nor does it even bother to really tie back to the original Waxwork. It's a whole thing, not gonna dwell too long on it, but this movie instead sees our main characters, the survivors of the first movie, jumping through time portals in a really weird, convoluted reason. They got into legal trouble after the events of the first movie, and they find a way to go into these time portals, and they decide that the best thing to do is to start jumping through portals to find some kind of evidence to clear their names legally. Sure. Another thing that bugs me is they keep talking about time portals. The movie's called Waxwork 2 Lost in Time, but they're not time traveling. They are reality traveling. They are jumping into different horror movie genres, and in some cases, specific horror movies. There's a scene where they literally jump in to Nosferatu, like silent movie, black and white, like old-timey music, and like speech cards. Like when the characters talk, speech cards pop up. So it's not about time traveling, it's about genre jumping or movie jumping. And that framework does function in a very similar way to the Wax Museum displays from the first Waxwork. It just comes across as less logical and lazy. Also, I don't think Waxwork 2 is a horror movie at all. It is a comedy. And when it comes to comedy, it's either you think it's funny or you don't think it's funny, and the rest kind of doesn't matter. Most of the comedy in this movie was eye-rolling. Like, I think I got a headache from how hard I rolled my eyes at the jokes in this movie. There are so many Looney Tunes sound effects.
Can't imagine some of the places I had to lug this thing through. It's not light, you know. Come on, let's go.
And over-the-top, cartoonish mugging to the camera. I was checking out, big time. But to be fair, I do need to give the devil its due. There is one scene in this movie that is truly fantastic. And to be fair, there are moments sprinkled throughout. I'm nitpicking on the negative stuff that stood out. There's plenty of okay stuff. But there is one scene that is a shining beacon in the sea of meh that is Waxwork 2. The main character, Mark, played by Zach Galligan, finds himself in a black and white haunted house movie in the spirit, pun very intended, in the spirit of House on Haunted Hill or The Legend of Hell House, with maybe a sprinkle of Evil Dead in there for a little edge. And speaking of Evil Dead, Bruce Campbell makes a great cameo in this scene, as does Marina Sirtis from Star Trek The Next Generation, and Sophie Ward, who, if you don't know, one of the multiple actresses who played the evil Queen Mombi in Return to Oz. All movies that I like, all actors that I really like. So this really, for an 80s kid, is like the most dream team epic Scooby Gang to ever go investigate a haunted mansion. This scene delivers across the board. It's got fun characters. It has a distinct visual style, the spooky ghost effects, the gore, the possessions, and it's the only time the comedy lands, for me, in the entire movie. Bag of salt in a big open chest wound, that is just my kind of sense of humor. This scene should have been a whole movie onto itself. And that's kind of where I'm at with Waxwork 2. It's not a terrible movie. A lot of people really, really like it. I just found it to be kind of uninspired and not fitting with the original Waxwork at all. I don't think you can really watch them as a double feature and have them feel like parts of the same larger whole. Whole. But for all its faults, I still have a ton of nostalgia for it, and for that haunted house scene alone, I think it is worth sitting down and checking out. And I think that is going to do it for us tonight. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and I will catch all you alley cats and you dirty dogs next time. Bye-bye.